The thing that I love the most, which is just because of how stupid it was the killing of the Night King. Because it's absolutely ludicrous. And it was the one bit in the show where you could just tell they were like, yep, we're gonna do a dumb, subverting expectations thing that is just gonna go against all the previous seasons and all the lore that we've set up and all the theories and all the rumors and all the different things that could have gone in for the rest of the episodes of the season of the life of Game of Thrones. We're just gonna kill him. We're just gonna blow him up. And then they have the whole hive mind connection thing, so he dies and all of his generals die and all the rest of the whites die. And I loved it. I love how stupid it is. I love how ridiculous it is. I love how much time and effort we all put into theories and the rumors and the way that it was gonna go, just to watch them all disappear in a big old pile of ice. So yeah, I sound maybe negative. I'm not. I absolutely love it. It's just insane. It's completely insane. It makes no sense whatsoever. But then they made him for the show anyway, and he's not even in the book. So do whatever you want, really, and they did.
Favorite part of episode 3 is the only relatable part that any of us went through. Like, we all sat and we watched all of that as bystanders, couldn't influence it, just sat there and we watched it. And the very last shot at the end, Melisandre has done exactly the same as we have. She just had to sit there and watch the whole thing. She goes, "Oh, you haven't got to kill me. I'll sort myself out." Walks out the door, robe off, tits out one last time, staggers around in the snow. I was just like, same.
Well, apart from everything, it's probably got with the intro. I've never sat there and just begged for an advert break. Sitting there, the tension just built up and built up. You're just like, okay, I thought they were there. No, we're going to wait a little bit longer. You cannot see anything, and this isn't a complaint because you can see the episode quite fine. In the distance, when you actually aren't supposed to see anything, you can just slightly hear the whites. And then after that, they go, "Oh no, we're going to send a Dothraki. Don't worry, they've got fire swords now. They're going to be able to take them out." Nope, just gone, dead. I just can't handle this every time. I'm shaking. I'm sitting at the edge of my seat. You know, you say that you sit at the edge of your seat. I have never done that until then. I was like, in 3 in the morning, sorry for the swear, like literally 3 in the morning, just like, I want to just this be over, but I need to see what happens. But yes.
So anyone who's seen me on these videos knows that I view Game of Thrones through a slightly different lens to anyone else. So with that in mind, looking through my big bad banter canon, there were a couple of things that stuck out in this episode. Number one was big stupid Drogon just letting a bunch of zombies climb all over him and eat him up before he flew away 5 minutes later. Number two was Sam going through this long, arduous journey in the opening sequence, building all this dread, to meet Ed on the front line, only for Ed to go, "Oh, for God's sake." But my favourite moment on the whole show was big, dumb, stupid, moron, idiot face Jon Snow thinking he could fight a bloody dragon. Not just any dragon, an undead white dragon. So this thing's sitting on this wee wall, right? It's had a big chunk ripped out of its throat by one of the other ones up in the sky when they were all fannying about up there. It's spewing its Listerine all over the place. It's proper wrecking everything, because that's what dragons do. Big dumb Jon Snow hiding behind the wall says, "Yeah, you know what? I can scrap this dragon." So he gets up, looks it in the eye, and sort of goes, "Ah!" And suddenly, the dragon, of course, because of what happened with Arya and the Night King, the dragon collapses and dies. So, not only does Jon Snow, as he tried to take this thing on in a fist fight, you can't box a dragon, you moron, he thinks that because he doesn't know what's happened in the Godswood yet, he thinks that him shouting at this dragon has made it die, has made it collapse and the whole thing. How's that going to go down when he gets through the Godswood and goes, hey Arya, guess what? Just screamed at a dragon and it bloody died. Like, shut up, mate. I've just smashed Frank and the whole undead army. They're gone. I've killed them with dragon glass, you moron. Yeah, I loved it.
Well, perhaps unsurprisingly, it was a death, because there were so many great deaths in this episode. But my favourite was right at the very end with Jorah protecting Dany.
Wait,
so,
you mean Lord Friendzone?
Sir Friendzone?
Yeah.
No, I think you'll find his name is Sir Jorah Mormont. And he dies at the end of this episode, and he deserves more, because finally he gets a chance to prove himself to Dany. Obviously, their relationship has been tumultuous over the past couple of seasons, but he's finally back in a place where he's got her respect, he's finally got the status back, and he goes out finally protecting his Khaleesi, and it's so devastating because he gets like the Boromir death. He just gets shanked over and over again by these whites, and he does not go down until the job's done, and then once everyone's dead, he just flops on the floor, job done, and she cries over him in potentially Emilia Clarke's best bit of acting on the entire show. She is so emotive in that scene. And then the icing on the cake is when the dragon comes down and sort of cradles Dany while she's weeping over her lost friend. It's just such a beautiful image and really heartbreaking, and I teed up a little bit on the first time round. But if we're going for kind of, you know, a smaller moment, I've got a little bit of an addendum. I love the moment between Sansa and Tyrion in the crypt, you know, when they kind of like share a look and he kisses her hand and they've got the daggers, and then the score starts to play, which is the best part of the whole episode, and it kicks off that long stretch, which is just perfect, best Game of Thrones stuff.
So the theme here is you like both the friend zone parts.
Yes. It's just not perpetuating this narrative. Friend zones don't exist.
So my favourite part of Game of Thrones episode 3 is one of my favourite parts of all of Game of Thrones put together, which is Lyanna Mormont. Like, all of her stuff is always badass. She is just a ridiculous little girl who is absolutely like a monster in this whole Northern realms. She embodies everything about being hardcore and puts all these people to shame all the time, and she's just great. And because she was basically painted out as the last of the house by Jorah in the second episode, and the pair of them were like, oh God, what are we gonna do if the house ends? And she was like, no, I'm gonna fight. I'm a real badass little stabbing machine. Like, obviously she had a mark written for her that something bad was gonna happen, and it did, and it was very sad, but also good. They gave her a good death. This was the best moment for me, is when a freaking ice giant white comes in, boshing everyone up, smacks her aside like a piece of crisp, I don't know. something very small, and flies her away. She goes off, and because she's Lyanna Mormont and ain't gonna take one swatting away for an answer, she gets back up all crunched and bloody and starts hopping back over to him to give him what for, and he starts picking her up and crunching her, again a bit like a crisp maybe, crunchy, and squeezing her, and you think, oh my God, this guy's literally just gonna squash Lyanna Mormont. She's been proved to be small and weak and horrible after all this time, but no, whips out a blade, jabs him in the eye, takes down the Ice White, and it's just great. It's the best like death, best double death ever. Like, it's just so fitting that she's the one to take down this big bad white. I don't know, it was just great. It was just great. There's an Ice White, which is good, and there's Lyanna Mormont, double good. Big moment.
Ash, as you've established, Lyanna Mormont is a crisp. What flavour is she?
Ooh, I would have to say she's salt and vinegar, because she's sharp and tangy. Like, it's an aggressive flavour.
Well, Ben Roy, my favourite moment in the I forgot what it's called, the long night, was in fact the one that you did, but we're not going to talk about that. My other favourite moment was when Arya was in the library, full of whites, and she went full Metal Gear Solid, or full Harry Potter in the library, as Ash claims it's from. Yeah, pretty much any survival horror.
But also mostly Harry Potter.
But mostly Harry Potter. Anyway, so it's really good because in the midst of this giant battle where everything's on fire and everyone's like being stabbed and it's awful, the episode just takes a moment out to go really quiet, and you get a full-blown horror in the middle of this episode. And for all of the intensity and the heart-stopping like horror of what comes before it, it's Arya hiding just around the corner from all these whites, where you finally get a payoff of all of the training she went through at the House of Black and White, which was awful to watch and it was boring, but you're like, right, this is why they've done it. It's just one of the most accomplished pieces of filmmaking in that whole episode, and it's one of the like slightest. So yeah, that's why.
It was a really, really good episode, actually. One thing that really, really stuck out to me was, it was a death. There were a few deaths, nothing really massive, a few people that we kind of knew were gonna die, let's be honest. And Theon, most of all, I think everyone predicted he was going in the Battle of Winterfell. They kind of made it very, very obvious that he was gonna die, but it was the way that he did it. He went out fighting. It was absolutely, it was really heartwarming, because this was a guy who, you may remember, did in fact like take over Winterfell not too long ago with his little squid buddies. They took over Winterfell. They killed Bran and his brother. They didn't really, but obviously, you know, everyone thought they did. And it would be understandable for Bran to hate him, but no, Bran's a changed man. And he says, Theon, you're a good man. You know, thank you for what you're about to do for me, which was obviously sacrifice his life to try and help him. If Theon hadn't done that, Bran probably would have died. They probably would have lost. So Theon, the hero of the Battle of Winterfell, among obviously Arya did a little bit as well, I guess. But no, that was a really, really good moment. Just that one little exchange between Theon and Bran, just like, you know, I forgive you. It's fine. Everything he did led us all to this moment. And just, dude, it's gonna be okay. Just, you know, sleep well. And it was just really nice. Like, good guy, Theon. Well done. Well done.